So the Washington Post wrapped up. So the last time we recorded a podcast, I think was the last day that the Washington Post published one of their stories, and it was their hatchet job on sleep apnea. We didn't talk about that on the last episode of the podcast, but that same day they posted a podcast called The Post Reports. Go check it out. We're living rent-free in their heads. It's a picture of me testifying and knife-handing Congress. But, this podcast was really instructive to what their perspective is in their reporting. And really, the lead reporter on this kind of showed his hand. And I'd encourage people to listen to it because there's a couple of fundamental misrepresentations of the facts. And it helped to instruct Commander-in-Chief Whitmore's latest response that came out just last week, where she said this was designed to drive a wedge between our veterans and the Americans that they've sworn to defend. On the podcast, the lead reporter says, first of all, that he was a national security reporter at the Pentagon, and he saw all these veterans who were on disability. Words are important, and they mean specific things.
Yep.
Service-connected disability is not like long-term disability from your employer. It's not like short-term disability from your employer. It's not like Social Security disability insurance or SSDI. It is service connection. It is payment for the average lost earnings capacity of a service-connected chronic health condition. It's not you're on disability, you're off disability, you're on disability, you're off disability. It's a fundamental misrepresentation. If he had reached out to any of the VSOs who have been doing this for longer than VA has, he might have learned that. He chose not to. And he chose to send other reporters out to do his dirty work.
Oh, yeah. Like a year ago.
Yeah, more than a year ago.
More than a year ago. And go ahead, Brian.
I want to keep going with this because in addition to the on disability, he then said, he worked at the Pentagon he worked around the Pentagon on all these people who are on disability. And his words, go listen to it for yourself. Post Reports on Spotify, not visibly disabled.
Yeah. Not visibly disabled.
Maybe he needs to watch this and see the section about combat tested gaming and understand what the difference is, what that means. Not visibly disabled, because as we know,
he willingly just did not even engage in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that depending on your attire of the day, many disabilities aren't visible.
Right.
No.
I mean, even among every American.
Yeah.
I mean, it's become a fundamental change that I think veterans have driven. First of all, talking about disability in the workplace, about veterans and mental health, that most disabilities don't manifest themselves in a visible way, right? Mm-hmm. Even amputations. If somebody has lost a limb and they present in a business suit, you may not know it. You may not know it just from looking at it.
Right.
Correct.
I mean, are you kidding? Are we talking like this in 2025?
This entire series of reporting has just been so offensive and upsetting because they have zero perspective, and it's like there was no effort whatsoever to find that perspective.
I think that's
had they done that. Sorry.
No, I think that's what upsets me the most is on this podcast, he talks about, well, I worked at the Pentagon.
Great.
Good for you.
Yeah,
okay.
Congratulations. Countless other people also worked at the Pentagon. Do you want an award for that?
Hey, I've been around veterans, so, I didn't choose to speak with any of them, but, I was around them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was adjacent.
Well, I would have joined, but
right?
Yeah.
Well, look, there was plenty of people,
almost veteran.
There was people that I knew that, because of their physical disabilities while in service, and they weren't able to be back out on the line You know what I mean?
Correct.
And so they end up getting jobs at the Pentagon, or they end up getting jobs in, doing policy and doctrine at Leavenworth or over at Fort Meade or down at Fort Lee or wherever in these other places.
Well, you can't see the breathing issues that they're having or the cancers that they're suffering from.
Oh, yeah. That was in the story, too. Like, the day before they were 100% fit for duty. How do you
don't know
that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what was like another gross omission from that whole narrative is that they didn't even bother to figure out why people wait until the very last minute to get their service-connected injuries and illnesses documented in their medical records.
Oh, don't worry.
Because there's a culture of minimization in the military. And you're not supposed to talk about the things that are wrong with you. And a lot of people won't because they're afraid to lose their security clearance.
Correct.
They're
or
afraid
their flight
of
status.
being ostracized from their unit. They're afraid of their peers not feeling like they can rely on them anymore, whether it's like they're struggling with mental health issues or they have a physical injury manifesting that could impact their functioning on the battlefield. Like, there are so many reasons why people choose to not disclose when they're sick or injured in the military, and it's generally so that they can comfortably keep their job or feel like they are not going to be in jeopardy of losing flight status, for example, if they are part of an air crew. And they didn't even bother asking for any of that context, and then said they're like, oh, well, all of us, you're super healthy while you're fully fit for duty for all these years you're in service, whether it's 4 years or 20. And all of a sudden, at the end of your service, you have all of these things to document. Oh, that must be fraud.
It's also, Mike, you and I have sat knee to knee with veterans with their benefit claims, and frankly, you more often than I have. But it's also a very reductive way of looking at it, as if to imply that none of this was documented elsewhere in service. I mean, when you look at a medical record, of a military medical record, it has a lot of, it many times will have markers and indications and treatments. So, having never asked that question, here's the point, here's you missing it. I mean,
I'm sorry, let me give you my entire medical record next time so that, exactly like Brittany said, what's wrong with me. It's just, I don't know. I don't know the word. I think we've used so many of them, but to continue to have your service denigrated, to tell people that might need help, that might need the benefits in ways that he'll never understand and doesn't have any way of knowing, and now they're likely not to go seek those benefits, perhaps.
Right.
Oh yeah,
that is something that Carol wrote about.
Oh, that
is response
exactly, and that is such a huge deal. Like, okay, there's already a stigma. If you were an NCO and you put that stuff off, or you're an officer and you put that stuff off because you want to jeopardize your career, or you didn't want to be at risk of not leading troops anymore, and you put that stuff off, and now you're getting ready to get out, and you do all that sort of thing. Now, you mean that stigma might follow me when I get out of the military now? So you mean my fellow Americans will be looking at me?
So add that to the other injuries that might already suffer stigmatic issues, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good segue to something I did want to talk about, and it has to do with average lost earnings capacity, because there seems to be this ridiculous misconception from the lead reporter that, they can still get jobs. And we talked about this at a recent congressional roundtable that centered around this topic and what average lost earnings capacity actually means. After the Senate hearing, first of all, very grateful for the outpouring of support, but a lot of veterans reached out to share some of their stories and shared what that means to them. One was talking about, first of all, insurance. When you have a number of chronic healthcare conditions that likely mean you are going to die younger, you are not really going to be as insurable as most Americans.
Yeah, Prudential's not going to be offering you a very low-cost premium plan because you're even more of a risk than you would have been in the first place.
No, and look, this one veteran who reached out to me basically said his spouse was able to secure a $500,000 life insurance policy. The most that he could secure was about $10,000. because of the extent of his chronic healthcare conditions. That means that whatever happens to you later in life, your family is not going to be as secure. The other issue with average lost earnings capacity is a myopic view of how long a veteran may be in the workforce. You and I talked about this one. It actually happens with professional athletes all the time.
All the time.
You see a professional athlete get a big contract for millions of dollars. What's their earning capacity, though, over their lifetime? They may have a flash in the pan of 3, 5, 8 years, if they're lucky, of earning a lot of money. What happens for the rest of their life?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, that $8 million doesn't seem like so much, whereas the same thing with a veteran. Your earning capacity, if you have to leave the workforce earlier because of your service-connected conditions, or take lower-paying jobs or more flexible jobs, or gig work because of the unpredictability of your schedule, your needs because of healthcare.
If you're not fully unemployable because of these issues,
your earning capacity is lower. And some of the longitudinal data on veterans in the workforce demonstrate that. Veterans do leave the workforce earlier than their non-veteran peers. And logically, when you look at the extent of service-connected conditions, that's likely one of the reasons why.
I would like to jump in here because, this is not research-based, but I would hesitate to think that I'm alone in this, is that, and I don't hesitate to use myself as an example, but there have been opportunities that I've foregone that could have been better for my career, perhaps, that I have not taken because of my limitations. Like, I have to be very conscious all the time of the amount of, like, the workloads that I take on, the opportunities that I take on, because it happens so quickly, where if I don't sleep well, like for 2 nights in a row, my body like goes in a serious downward spiral. Severe headaches, body aches. Like it's like just perpetually living in a box, and I'm only in my 30s, but this started when I was in my early to mid 20s. That's when I was med boarded out of the Navy. So it's been over a decade. People don't realize that when you come out of the military, often it's not, it's obviously not everyone, but I feel like I can safely say I'm in good company, where you come out with a bunch of limitations, and yes, I can work. I'm clearly working right now as I speak with you, but that doesn't mean that I'm whole, that I have full operating capacity that other people my age generally do, which is really lame, because I feel mentally like I have a lot more to give than I feel like I physically am able to, because I just physically don't have the capacity anymore. I am plagued by severe headaches that started in Afghanistan. And, that was over a decade ago. And when I get one of those headaches, I'm down for days. I could be down for days. The only thing that'll make them go away is sleep. And so think about lost work capacity just from that condition alone. You can't see that condition. Nobody can see that condition, but it's my reality. My family knows about it. They see the suffering that happens, but nobody else does. That doesn't mean that I don't have a disability that's service connected, that started directly in service.
And then good luck trying to find an employer that will accommodate that when you've had missed days.
Yeah.
When you're missing days off because you can't physically function.
I can't function.
Like the less than 1% of the country who served. Craig Whitlock, I'm talking to you.
Yes.
Right.
It's crazy too. I mean, Brittany, you bring up a lot of really good points that, our friends over at PVA talk about as well, Paralyzed Veterans of America. They have advocated for decades about accessibility of workplaces for those with severe spinal cord injuries. And one of their frustrations that they shared with me was that this story sets all that back. It's like, look, we have made a lot of strides in accessibility in the workplace and accessibility to do work. I mean, right now with our Washington office being under renovation, us here at the temporary workspace and things like that, like, look, we're working largely from a remote work environment. but we have that capacity. And it also allows for us as a veterans service organization, a veterans serving organization, to offer what our employees might need and our peers might need as a result of their military service. You know, there are a lot of veterans who work here. I've shared it on this podcast before. I can tell Dan, my boss, about when I'm having trouble with a service-connected condition, when I need to go to VA, or when things just aren't going right. Yeah. Can't do that in every company.
Nope. No.
You sure can. There are places where I wouldn't feel safe disclosing that.
Correct.
Work environments. And, you know, I mean, that still speaks to, you know, stigma around, you know, we also as veterans tend to carry that with us from the military, you know, the minimization, the downplaying of the challenges. Well, part of it is not wanting to disclose that we have a weakness so that others won't see us any differently. Well, that's the same thing also in the competitive workforce. You don't want to disclose those things because you don't want to be seen as less or different or, you know, or anything like that. But VFW is a unicorn in that way, in that we feel like we are able to talk about these things and we're not going to be penalized for it.
Yeah.
We can't say the same thing about other employers.
And hell, we're going to broadcast them to the world and let everyone else hear about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And I'm proud of that. And Brittany, I really appreciate you sharing everything that you just shared, because it's that context that I think a lot of veterans have gravitated toward in response to this just irresponsible and just hatchet job reporting based on, you know, decades old stereotypes that we have worked deliberately to dismantle.
And just, you know, taking snippets of things, right? So-and-so said this, and therefore, well, we were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
About Cindy and what now she's now gone through because of this.
Yes.
And you mentioned a cut finger.
You're right. So on their podcast, again, go listen to it. I am not, you know, post reports. They once again misrepresent what our representatives do on military installations. They talked about one of our representatives saying, well, we saw her, and it wasn't him. He didn't go down there. But we saw her briefing one of the classrooms and saying, you know, I don't care if you cut your finger while you were making dinner. We're going to put that on the form and we're going to claim it. First of all, like that's hyperbole, right? I mean,
it is.
That's a device to catch the attention of a crowd. Like, what did she say? That doesn't sound right. But Mike, you know, you cut your finger cooking dinner 10 years ago, it heals, you have no problems with it. Is that claimable?
Nobody's going to claim that. That's like I said, pure hyperbole. Cindy, attention grabbing, and for those of you that know Cindy's delivery style, it gets the class attention. Look, they're in a class that's boring.
Yeah. It is.
I hate to say it. We find it exciting because it's our job, but it's boring to the average person. So when you get their attention, then you move on to something else about, okay, you were in the motor pool and you had your foot crushed. Okay, that's a little bit more substantial.
Yes.
But I got your attention with the knife cut of a finger 10 years. And it's not like he didn't know it or she didn't know it. Or they, let's just use the other pronoun, they. So
the reporter.
They didn't know it. And it's really a disservice because, again, somebody's going to read that and say, well, all right, you know,
these veterans.
These veterans just milking the system.
Just milking.
Right.
Milking the system.
And what's sad about this, and this is just Mike Figlioli talking, as the program director and responsible for the National Veteran Service, you know, marketing is part of what we need to do to get our services and the services we provide out there. And I thought for sure this was going to be a good way to talk about our BDD team and the service we provide at pre-separation. I don't think any one of us until later on realized it was going to become the hatchet job that it became.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're an open book. I mean, again, our program is regulated.
Yeah.
It's subject to stiff laws and regulations, penalties if we do those unethical things that they assume that we do based on no information or context whatsoever.
To quote what I put in your testimony, we invited VA to come in and audit our program.
I invited them.
Years ago before I became the director.
Who made the phone call to invite them to come audit our training.
And
they still haven't.